My humble respect to Guru Mahan, Guru Piran Sangran, Guru Piranyo, fellow Jnanis. Today I'm going to continue with the Katha Upanisha, where I left off the last time on the qualities that one needs to acquire this knowledge. An ordinary mind would find it very difficult to access this knowledge. And we covered the kind of, we had this hypothesis where does the self exist or not? Is there something that exists after death? So here, in this context, this Lord Yama explains to Nachiketa that we need to learn to acquire a particular understanding of the state of mind. And he says that when our mind gravitates towards the pleasant and the desires and the material world, it is very difficult for us to touch the substratum of the self, which is subjective. So most people who are caught up so much with the material world will find it very difficult. Even whatever practices that they practice, even how great the guru is, as long as the disciple is very caught up in this material world and does not learn to quieten and divinize their desires, they'll find it very difficult. And he also speaks about the goodness of searching for the truth and the self. Right? The goodness comes from that search for that self. So he says, so why is it that some people get it and some people don't get it? He says it's partly because they don't get it because of avidya. This is ignorance, right? Not knowing the treasure that is, embedded in themselves. So vidya is actually about giving you that illumination of that self. So this is what we covered the last time. Plus also, I touched on why is it that, most people don't speak about the self. So even in a lot of the practices, it's very, very ritualistic and very, very few that speak about that self, and very few have an opportunity to hear about the self. You see a lot of acharas or rituals about, many things, but very few places or very few masters that speak about that self. So here we stopped at that where, the frame of mind that you see many people do not have that opportunity to hear about that self. They hear about many, many things, how to make money, how to get good wealth. They travel around the world, go in all kinds of pilgrimage to acquire wealth and, good health and all those things, all material. And but they don't have an opportunity to hear about that self, which is far more superior to that object body or the material experiences. So in this, Lord Yama then explains that, very few people actually want to hear about this, right? So if you see, if I was running this online classes about how to make money, how to do all these things, this place would be so packed, but when you talk about the self, very few people that actually show up, at least consistently. So, and here he also says that even among those who hear, many do not grasp it, what it means, because their mind is not focused. They get distracted, right? So, and also the people that teach it may not be competent to teach about the self because they themselves are not self-realized. So they don't know what they are explaining or expressing. How can they, teach about it? It's only going to be very abstract. So only when one who has attained that self-knowledge, that the inner, divine inner resources, they'll be able to share that, right? So he says those who attain self-knowledge have to be accomplished. I mean, the self actually makes them really, really stand out. And you can see that in every facet of their lives, the way they think, the way they speak, the way their actions are, and the whole the sense of sublimity and the calmness and the kind of kind of tejas. So he says that only a handful of the persons attain self-knowledge, and they get it from being taught by highly accomplished teachers. So highly accomplished teachers will know how to mold the student to the level of beyond themselves. Right? So again, when we select our teachers or when we select who our coaches are, we want to make sure that they have the excellence, what we call the sarvadakshina, the par excellence in everything that they do, they think, they speak, and also their actions. So in this, Lord Yama explains to that most people actually pray for prayers, which is pleasantries, right? Very few actually look at the goodness of Shreyas. And even among the so-called people who are teachers, they also get caught up by the prayers, and very few of them have that Shreyas quality. So you see that many of this knowledge are sold for very, very high prices. But the Mahans, the true Mahans and the true saints and sages actually will liberally give this because they got it. They understand that self. They got it for free. There was no material, compensation. It's that self-discovery, and they make it available to everyone without any wants or expectation. And that's what a true teacher is. So that's what I saw in my teachers, that they were self-realized and they imparted this knowledge without any favor or expectation. So here Lord Yama explains that there may be many, many teachers, but not all of them have acquired the self. Many of them are still caught up in this materiality. So who is a competent teacher? So here he explains the qualities of a competent teacher, right? And he goes on to explain that not materialistic, though they live in this material world, they don't have that craving for the material world, right? And they see themselves as the Brahman. They don't see themselves separate from the divinity, you see. And there is just no conflicts. They are very, very clear in who they are. And you see that in verse 8, he expresses this, that, they are not this material and caught up with this transitoriness, and yet what they think, what they do, and what their actions are not conflicting. So here he says that uh, the true spiritual teachers, though live in this material world, identify themselves as the Brahman or the Mahan or the Paranjodi, right? And they meander, or they organize their lives around that. They see everything, they do everything with that kind of lens, right? And you can see that they are not very materialistic. This spiritual knowledge is not sold for a lot of money, and they do it liberally, right? So here again, even Mahan, my own guru, and my gurus were all in that category where they did it liberally without any expectation. Even sometimes, middle of the night when people call Guru Sangaran, he will wake up, he'll open the house, and 2 a.m. in the morning, he will give them inspirational words, kind words, comfort them, and then send them back home. And sometimes he drives them back. So again, we see that qualities are what we see in a competent teacher. So The other aspect is that it's not from someone who only knows the scriptures and not realized itself. You see, there are many people that can recite many, many things, many really complicated languages, and very good in the grammar and all those things. So here again, Lord Yama says that it's not about how well you know the language or the syntax and so on, but the meaning of those and internalizing that meaning and transforming one's thoughts and one's mind and one's behavior and one's actions and words. So he says that well, knowing the scriptures is one thing, but actually living by it and realizing it is two different things. So don't be fooled by people who know all the verses really well, but yet don't know what the meaning is. Even if they know the meaning, they don't put it to practice in their own life. So again, Lord Yama gives them this caution of why even the so-called teachers too are not self-realized, and they gravitate towards that transitory desire and material world. So one of the things that a good guru will know that you cannot attain the self through transitory things and experiences, right? So you can't get this through material things. So that means traveling to places, to going on an external pilgrimage, hoping that the divinity will descend in you. No, he says that you cannot attain the self from these transitory things in life and the experiences, right? He says that the self can only be attained through an inner journey, an inner pilgrimage, not going to places. He says that if you are searching for that divinity or that spark of divinity which manifests as the self, you will not find it outside. You will find it within our eternal inner realm. Right? So here he explains in verse 10 very beautifully that I know that wealth as well as all fruits of work are transitory, he says, and you cannot attain the eternal self by using transitory things. You cannot give material things to attain this. It's not a barter trade. He says, I knew this, yet I performed the Nachiketa sacrifices and was rewarded with this position of Yama. So here he says that you have to take that inner journey to discover the spark within ourselves through this introspection, contemplation, reflection, and meditation, right? This positions eternal only in a relative sense. So that means that that external pilgrimage needs to transition towards an inner pilgrimage to be able to discover that spark of that divinity that manifests as the self, right? So allocating time for oneself for the self-discovery through introspection, contemplation, reflection, and meditation is very critical. And this is what Nachiketa did. And this is what he asked in his boon too, right? He says, the Nachiketa sacrifice can admit you to heaven and also qualify you for some special powers. But these are only pseudo eternal gains. Yes, through this meditation, yes, through this practice, you will acquire, enormous strengths and, enormous special powers of the mind, right? To do many, many things. You'll be very successful in everything that you do in this material world, you know, but he says, even this is pseudo eternal gains. It's not complete eternal gains. So they are not really eternal. So yes, this meditation, gives you amazing, power of the human mind. You can think creatively. You can, acquire all the 10 capitals of life. Even that, Lord Yama says the pseudo eternal gains, right? They are not real eternal. So he says, sooner or later, your 10 years, Yama, even that will come to an end. So he says that these are all temporary compared to the self-knowledge. So again, uh, so Nachiketa, you have selected the right path to not be caught up by this temporary, all these things, the desires that has been given to him. So we see that uh, you cannot know the self through all these material things, right? So not by reading scriptures, lots of scriptures, or not by doing all kinds of rituals, you would never attain this. So a competent teacher will know this truth, right? So a competent teacher will not, you know, uh, try to spend a lot of time trying to pronounce things. Just get the gist, understand the gist, and see how it you can put it to practice in your own life to transform your mind, transform your speech, the way you speak, and transform our own actions. And that's what a competent teacher will teach you. So then he goes on to say, this is what we call the Nachiketa qualities, right? And in this, he explains that the Nachiketa quality is actually the quality that rejects that human desires. So I like to call it divinize that human desires. Yes, these desires need to be outlived and you have to become transcendental to it. And that search for truth is what one looks for, even though how much, things that we get, goodness, the pleasantries of life, always, realize that those things are also temporary. And, a good, competent teacher will teach you that Nachiketa qualities of inculcating that, yes, while living, we have a duty, but don't get caught up by that duty and the desires. So here, a teacher will teach you how to search for that truth. And I'll describe what that self is shortly. See, one goes beyond the pleasure and pain, even the sukha dukkhas. There are times that you get a lot of goodness. You don't get caught up by it. You acknowledge that this is part of life. The sukha dukkhas are part of life. There are moments that things become really exuberant, fantastic. You're not overly caught up by it. Similarly, there are challenges in our lives that we go through. We should not be broken. So a good guru will teach us how to modulate and moderate these cycles of pleasure and pain or sukha dukkha. So a wise one, as he says, a wise person realizing this self is within himself goes beyond this pleasure and pain. They become transcendental to the sukha dukkhas. Yes, there are moments that you go through difficult periods. Be quiet, be silent, resolve it in yourself. There are moments that you have exuberance. Again, be silent, be introspective to conserve that energy so that you can navigate this journey. So here he goes on to say that the self is not easily seen, right? And it requires really a subtle mindset that is not disturbed by any material thought. So again, he goes on to explain this very clearly. So the other important thing is that hearing alone is not enough, he says, but one must be firmly anchored on that self, right? He says, yes, we hear this today and then uh, we forget about it, and then next week Guru teaches again, and then it comes back. No, what is taught today should be thought about it today before you go to sleep, and then imbibe it, as you go to sleep, and then when you wake up, how do you put it to practice, right? So he says that one achieves this self. This self is nothing but this absolute silence, this absence of the materiality. In that absolute silence, the first door of silence, one attains that spiritual realm. If you don't get that silence, you are impacted by this material demons and material torments and the cycles. So the first door of the self is that the gurus teach you, this is the Nachiketa fire, that guru teaches you how to keep that mind quiet, that quietude. In that quietude, you, you attain that expansionary realm of who you are. You know, you become transcendental to the limitedness of who you are, that is caught up by these limited material thoughts and experiences. So this requires careful introspection. Swamiji used to say, Utru, Utru, Noka, Noka, right? That really intensive inner pursuit. So that leads to the quietening of the mind, the silence, that leads to that spiritual realm. You get a kind of an expanded state of consciousness, you know, and that is transcendental to the limitations of our human biology. And you get a kind of a liberating feeling. You're not caught up by the clutches of the sugadukas, the pain and pleasure, right? So you become transcendental to that. And finally, you realize I am that Brahman, right? So this may not happen immediately for someone, but this requires a lot of effort, right? Because most people are caught up by that gravity of this materiality. A competent teacher has learned to become transcendental to the gravity of materiality. And he teaches this art of self-realization, how to make that mind silent, how in that silence one experiences that expanded state of consciousness, how one become liberated from that cycle of sugadukas and attain that finality of I am that blissful experience, right? So once one experiences this, there's nothing greater than this. This is what they call it the state of paripurnam, a full, wholesome contentment. You feel happy and you feel blissful in their own self. You feel that Mahan used to say that summa irukum sugam. And you see this among the gurus that have attained, that the sense of bliss, a sense of peace, a sense of calmness in their own demeanor, right? And they're not searching for anything. If you ask them, do you want anything? No. They attain that self-sufficiency. Even the search for God realization, the search for self disappears because you are the self. What is there to search anymore? You know, the search for God stops because you realize that you are a manifestation of that. So the seeker stops seeking. And that's what the Guru teaches. The Guru doesn't tell you, oh, God is here, God is there, all these things. The Guru has realized that the divinity is within himself and the disciple. Only thing is that he knows that he is that. He knows the disciple is that. Only thing is that the disciple doesn't know that he is. So he's trying to get the disciple to think in that way, right? So this is what the verse 13 say. A person has to hear about the self from a competent teacher. But hearing is not enough. He has to attain that self. So a teacher can teach you, but you have to write that examination, right? He must also establish firmly in that self, right? Associate oneself to that divine self, which is very, very subtle. That self as the Dharma, the sustaining, that self is what, manifests as everything. And when we do that, our mind that has got the lens of that self will see divinity in everything. And that's what the Guru who has attained that self-realization will see this, right? So he says that when he knows that he is the self, he feels that he has nothing to achieve. He's fully content. This is the paripurnam. He is happy and full bliss. He says, I feel that Nachiketa now is fit to merge with the Brahman. So he sees these qualities. The Guru sees these qualities. Here, Guru means Yama. Guru says, he says that the Gurus that see this are the competent Gurus. The Gurus don't see your money or your bank account or, how much money you give them. The Guru sees these qualities, and these qualities are what the Gurus give guidance to the disciple, which is innocent, pure, and searching for truth on how to get there. Right? So here is what a competent Guru will do. At least when I read this Upanishad and I saw what my teachers were doing, my Gurus were doing, I'm able to associate with this, that they are willing to allocate time, their own resources to impart this knowledge because they have discovered this knowledge which is free, you know, just a little bit of effort and some time, and you discover this. You don't have to, there's nothing material that you can do to acquire this. So why should the Guru ask for anything material other than making this available spiritually without any expectation? And this is what Lord Yama has explained to Nachiketa, that, go to a guru that can show you that self without any expectation. And for me, I was very fortunate that my gurus showed that path. So here, in this, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to, if you have a guru or a coach that guides you, ultimately, the guru teaches that the guru, though they may be physical to guide you, they are guiding you to the supreme guru that resides in you. That's what a true guru would do, is to be able to take that mind that is distracted to the material world to that spiritual realm, that, hey, that guru that guides everything, the guru that resides everywhere is also residing in. And that manifests as our soul, or as our Atma, as our self. And this is what I love, this quote by Swami Vivekananda. He says that you have to grow from the inside. That means the pursuit of that self, as what Lord Yama is saying. See, none can teach you. The Guru can only show you. But you have to learn on your own. You have to take the lessons. You have to do that introspection, contemplation, reflection. None can make you spiritual. The Guru can only show you and give you instructions, but you have to walk that journey. He says, when you do that, there is no other teacher but your own soul. And this is what Lord, Swami Vivekananda expresses, that, the greatest gurus are the ones that have attained that soul enriching self and are imparting that knowledge. And in this context, for Nachiketa, Lord Yama is that guru that shows him that why is it the qualities that you possess that have led you to me. And the question that you will acquire that knowledge because you have that quality. And if you see that, I will not cover that today in verse 14. So Nachiketa says that it is not necessary to praise me. If you are very pleased with me, and if you think I'm fit, please explain. So again, I'll cover next week that the humbleness this little boy has. And Lord Yama praises him a lot. So you are the epitome of the quality that one needs to acquire this knowledge. And even in that praising, Nachiketa says that, don't praise me too much. I just want to know. If you're happy with me, please teach me this, right? So about the self. So here it is that on this Thursday night. Well, many people will be out there partying and doing things. I'm so happy that some of you all are still very interested in knowing about this great teachings of that self. And hopefully, like Nachiketa, you will acquire that quality, and the Guru will appear to show you that Guru within you that manifests as this vibrating self and the soul. Next week, I'll continue further on Lord Yama. He talks about what are other things that you need to acquire this knowledge. So, Sandosham.